Good morning. I had the good fortune of working on the British Airways change program in the early 1980s. I tell you this because as a young man I met a very senior director, the director of IT, a man called John Watson. And he said to me, "You know, John, all my life I've been doing big IT projects, and what I've learned is that every time you do a big IT project it costs 7 times as much as you originally thought." And I thought, well, you must be doing something wrong then. But of course, I didn't say so, because, you know, if you don't kind of question senior people, but it stuck with me. And I think that is the case. In fact, I think it's worse than that. Many major IT programs never see the light of day. You know, just give you some examples from the UK. The Rural Payments Agency, this is an agency that has to pay subsidies to farmers. You know, the European Union changed the rules, so we had to pay the subsidies in a different way. They decided to do it through a new computer system, an IT-led change. It cost them 32 million, and it failed. And the most incredible thing is, having failed, they then rehired the same IT company to do more work. There's a kind of a cute way of, you know, is this the way to do business? Let's fail, get more money. Huh. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, that's our tax office, has spent £9 billion on an IT-led change. They've managed to mess up the majority of pay-as-you-earn taxation. You know, there's something like 2 million people have paid too little tax, there's 4 million people paid too much tax, and there's another 17 million people they're not sure about. And they did it in 2 years. Brilliant. That's most of the people on PAYE. And of course, our health service has spent tens of billions on a computer system that will never see the light of day. No, you know, what's going wrong here? How do we normally do IT, big-scale IT? Well, you know, the managers write a spec, and then the IT company writes a spec, and then they have a kind of discussion about it. And this is where the IT company get into what I call features as benefits. You can have this, you can have that, and the managers go, woo! And so the spec builds, then we buy the hardware, write the software, train the people, put it in, and it don't work. That's kind of what happens, isn't it? Some people would say, yeah, we know it doesn't happen. So this is clearly a contractual problem. So if we improve the way we write our contracts, and we improve the way we do our project management, that'll do it. Well, I think that's just doing the wrong thing righter. Some people think, well, it's a question of, well, why don't we take these IT tools and get straight down there on the line, and so we'll go fast, agile. But that could be doing the wrong thing faster. I think the problem is much deeper. I think we've got a problem of management thinking. The way we think about the design and management of work. And of course, IT people share some of the assumptions that managers have about the way to design and manage work. I mean, in a sense, if you didn't share those assumptions, you wouldn't get the work, would you? It was Deming who, in the 1980s, alerted me to the obvious fact, that we, mankind, invented management, and it doesn't work very well. We think of management as top-down functional hierarchy. We think we should separate decision-making from work. The managers make decisions, and the workers should do the work. We think that managers should make decisions with budget data, activity data, cost data, standards, service levels. That's the lingua franca of decision-making. We teach managers to manage people and manage budgets. And if it's not news to you, it doesn't work very well. And if management doesn't work very well, then the IT that we use won't work very well either. And I don't know about you, but if I were you, that would piss me off. So I want to illustrate this problem with a case. I'm going to talk about what these people might have done if they'd followed the normal route to implementing IT, and I'm going to tell you what they actually did do, because they met me. They were lucky. First of all, let me tell you about their result. This is a housing repairs business We have a supplier, a private sector supplier, supplying housing repairs as a service to a local council, actually in Portsmouth on the south coast of England. Today, they deliver a repair on the day and at the time the tenant wants it. How cool is that? How cool is that? I mean, do you know, I don't know what telecoms companies are like in your country, but at home we have one called BT, and if they could do that, we'd all cheer. Now, not only do they deliver a repair on the day and at the time the tenant wants it, they do this at half the original cost. Wow. Now, let me tell you basically what housing repairs looks like. I want you to imagine now, I'm the manager and you're the IT supplier, and I'm just kind of described for you my business and what my IT needs are, okay? I've got tenants out there, and when they've got something wrong with their house, they call up, and they call my call centre, okay? And basically, there's two jobs to do in the call centre. The first job is to work out, well, what kind of target should we give this repair? You see, because we have government-inspired targets, certain repairs have to be done as emergencies in 24 hours. Some have to be done urgently within 7 days, and all others have to be done within 28 days. So the first task is what kind of target applies to this repair. The second task you have to do in the call centre is work out what the repair is, and they have a little book they call the Schedule of Rates. This is kind of a book with everything that can go wrong with a house, and the jobs, and the materials that you need for the jobs, and the time it would take a repairman to fix it, standard times. Okay, so they've got to work out which job this is and give it a code. That's basically what they do in the call centre. Then, having worked that out, they pass this to a supervisor who supervises the tradesman, and the supervisor gives the tradesman the job, and off they go to fix it. They get the materials, go to the house and fix it. That's basically it. It's a really simple little organisation. You might think, what could possibly go wrong? And what I want from the IT people is the ability to have a little electronic workflow system between my call centre and my supervisors. That's what I want. Okay? That's all I want. But then, of course, we have the step where, we get into features as benefits, you see, because then the IT people turn around and say, well, yeah, you can have that, no problem. If you notice that, they all say, yeah, it's doable, it's all doable. But you could also have, see, what we could do is we could kind of identify and program in what target applies to what different types of work, because there's a list of, if it's this kind of work, it should be this type. We could do that. We could put all that in your computer. And the manager's thinking, oh yeah, I like that. Because this is the guy who's got a thing on the wall that says, our people are our most important asset. And but he's also, I'll get these buggers doing it right, And they say, well, we can put the schedule of rates in there. We put the schedule of rates in your computer system too, so then we could just create a front end, where a dialogue where they go, is it one of these, is it one of these? So we can kind of dumb down your front end and make sure then, and you go, oh yeah, have some of that. And they say, you've got these guys going out and doing these repairs. You, Mr. Manager, must be interested in who achieves the repairs in the standard times. So what we could also do is we can measure that for you, when the guy gets a repair, when he gets in, and how many of these guys are doing it on the standard times. And the manager's going, oh, I love it. I'll control these buggers. Well, they didn't do any of that. All that stuff's junk, actually. All that stuff's junk. It's how to make organisations not work, but the managers don't know it. You see, take, for example, the schedule of rates. The managers believe that the schedule of rates is controlling costs. It's like in the health service as well, protocols, Let's specify what the operation is. Let's specify what the repair is. That will control our costs. Well, it actually doesn't. But if you said to a manager running housing repairs, the schedule of rates which you so admire and love is actually driving your costs up, they'd walk away from you. It just doesn't fit what's in their head. And hence I developed a method. I call it the Vanguard Method because my company's called Vanguard, which is a way of helping people unlearn and learn. And when the Vanguard Method is applied to situations where they want to implement IT, there's basically 3 steps. Step 1 is understand the what and why of performance as a system. Go study. Step 2, improve the design without touching the IT. You can turn it off or you can treat it as a constraint. Step 3, now we've improved the design, pull IT into the new design. You spend less and you get more. So let me explain how this works for housing repairs. Now, housing repairs is a transactional system, okay? And for transactional systems, there are basically 6 steps that you follow when you study them as systems. The first step is you say, well, what is the purpose of this system from the customer's point of view? Now, it's kind of pretty obvious, isn't it? Most customers want a repair done as quickly as possible. Yeah, you might think that a lot of customers want a repair done when it suits them, but of course this is social housing, you know, so they'd be pretty happy if you just got it done as quickly as possible, kind of thing. Now you're going to come back to that at step 3. Step 2 is to study demand. Study demand into the system. You're interested in 2 types of demand. Value demand, that's what we're here for. So what do we understand about the problems that we're having with our properties? Okay, very important. The other type of demand we want to study is failure demand. And failure demand I define as demand caused by a failure to do something or do something right for the customer. You understand? And that's when managers got their first shock. And this is important. You see, the managers have to do this work. It's no good me doing this work because they'll just walk away. You say, if you walk in and say, as indeed they found, 50% of your demand or more is actually failure demand, you know, they probably set a target to reduce it, you know. Poor bunnies. Failure demand tells you that your service isn't working. So what is failure demand? Well, it's things like, you know, he ain't arrived, it ain't right, it's still broke, that kind of thing. He didn't come, he left me a ticket through the door, that kind of thing. So that's they get a first shock. Because you kind of realise as a manager that if more than half of the demand hitting my call centre is failure demand, look how much resource it's consuming. It actually takes longer to deal with than value demand. You know, with value demand, you decide what it is and ship it on. With failure demand, you've got to find someone, work out what's going on, do a bit of progress chasing. It consumes resource. And they'd be inclined to want to do something about it, and you have to say, no, no, don't do anything. You haven't finished studying this system yet. The third step is to measure the capability of the system from the customer's point of view. And the interesting, so you're actually asking them, you know, well, from a customer's point of view, how long does it take from when they put their hand up till they get a repair done? Now, the managers think their targets are a proxy for that, and they're doing 100% on all their targets. 100% emergencies, and 100% urgents, and 100% other. But you have to make them study. No, no, let's get into the system. You actually physically do it, you do it manually, you get into the IT system. When did somebody put their hand up? When did we actually fix it? And that's when they get a major shock.